How smart do you think readers are? How much detail do they really need to grasp the story? What if I don't spell everything out for them? They miss the meaning. Today, I'm going to tell you what you need to stop doing, and trust me, your writers are going to thank me. So, let's head into the storm.
It's the raven's call, the werewolf's howl, the vampire's bite. You search through the woods for safety, but all you find is... Okay, rights.
Hello, writers, and welcome back to Spooky Writes. My name's Kemal Onor. I'm a horror short story author. And if this is your first time coming to Spooky Writes, make sure you hit like, subscribe. We talk all things writing. This channel is dedicated to writers for writers by a writer. So make sure you hit like and subscribe. Help this channel grow. It means a lot. Spread the word. Share it with all your writing friends. The goal with this channel is to have a big community of writers, to help everyone grow as authors, to help everyone grow as a writer, to help improve your writing. So when many beginning authors or many beginning writers start their journey of learning how to write, typically they do a lot of over-explaining. They'll tend to not trust their readers, and they'll just over-explain every single finite detail. And a lot of the thinking is, but if I don't describe every last detail, my reader is not going to understand what's going on in the scene. They're not going to be able to pick up on the subtleties and nuance of what I'm writing. They're not going to be able to understand and grasp what's going on while I'm writing this unless I give every little finite, minute detail. And so today we're getting into the nitty-gritty of what you need to stop writing, what you need to stop overemphasizing in your writing, and what you should probably cut out entirely. So, this video is going to have similar topics on what I touched on when I made my over versus underwriting video. That will be linked somewhere above. But I feel that this is such a prevalent issue in a lot of beginning writers' work that it deserves its own video. So that's why this is why I'm making this video, because this needs to stop. It needs to be addressed. So let's get this out of the way first off. Just because you wrote a pretty line, just because you feel that you have a pretty piece of description, does not mean that it is necessary to the story. Does not mean that you have to keep this in the novel or the short story that you're writing. And so just like Hemingway said, you have to murder your darlings. If it serves no purpose in the story, you need to take it out. You need to give the reader what they need to understand the story. You don't need to be giving excess filler. So please stop writing endless pages of description about characters' long flowing blonde hair, about the color of the sky. It's not necessary. You need to stop hammering your readers over the head with excessive language, with excessive details, because writers know what blonde hair looks like. And unless it serves a purpose in your story, unless your character is the only character who has blonde hair, this weird hue, this golden, unless it's a character whose name is Goldilocks, they really shouldn't be devoting so many words to describing a character's hair. And please stop giving lists of what a character is wearing. It is excess. It is not needed. So please stop detailing what the light in the sky looks like. It's called the sun. So understand that reading is an activity that readers need to be engaged in. Readers need to be taking part in the activity of taking in a story. And if you're just hammering them over the head with excess description, giving a play-by-play, remember, you are not John Madden, and your writing should not play out like John Madden detailing football plays. Never forget, John. So please stop describing characters doing mundane activities unless it has a necessity in the story, unless you're highlighting how mundane this character's life is. Please stop writing pages and pages of a character brushing his or her teeth, pages and pages of especially a character waking up of a character, eating breakfast of a character, pouring a bowl of cereal. None of this is necessary. These are all things that you could plainly state as the character woke up and got his or her breakfast. And you might even say they got up and made a bowl of cereal. You don't need to be giving pages and pages and giving words and descriptions to the cereal was soggy or the milk was cold. None of this is necessary because readers know what a bowl of cereal looks like. Readers know what a bowl of cereal tastes like. Ideally, everyone has had a bowl of cereal. Now, you need to trust your readers to be able to pick up on these subtleties. And I know that eating a bowl of cereal should not be a subtlety, but if you're not even willing to trust that your readers know what a bowl of cereal is, or what it's like to wake up in the morning, what it's like to tie their shoes, none of this is stuff that you need to be writing about. This is all stuff that could be easily filled in. You don't need to be talking about a character tying their shoes. You could just say he put his shoes on or she put her shoes on. He or she laced his or her shoes up. He or she laced their shoes up. You don't need to be talking about, the laces of the shoe crisscrossed back and forth and he made a perfect bow. This is excessive. It's not necessary. So remember, like Hemingway said, kill your darlings, trim out as much as you can, keep the bare essentials. If it's necessary if your character, maybe you're writing a story about a little kid who's learning for the first time how to tie his or her shoes, and it's about the relationship between the child and his or her father or his or her mother who is teaching him or her how to tie their shoes for the first time. This is something that you might include in the description, but otherwise, if it's just a mundane activity, please cut this out of your writing. Your readers will thank me when you stop talking about the brush stroke as your character brushes his or her teeth in the morning. This is all excess. It does not need pages and pages of description. It doesn't need any time to be wasted on. Readers' time is precious. You need to treat readers with respect. Treat readers as though they are intelligent people, because readers are intelligent and they're able to pick up and fill in the subtleties. You can even just say something as simple as he woke up that morning, quickly grabbed his breakfast and was out the door. You don't need to talk about every little beat, like he pulled off the covers, he sat up in bed, he put his feet on the floor, he went to the bathroom, he checked his reflection in the mirror, he did this. It doesn't need to be a one after the other after the other. You don't need to fill in every last second of this character's day. You can leave gaps, and these gaps will naturally be filled in by the reader. Again, giving that example of he woke up out of his bed and was out the door. A character is going to assume, of course, he woke up, he pulled the blankets off, otherwise he'd still be in bed. He opened his eyes, of course, he's awake, he's getting out of bed, he grabbed his breakfast, he's in a hurry. And these are all things that you don't need to outright describe. These are things that you can I would recommend stop describing, because readers are going to gloss over this. And we don't want readers to be glossing over the writing. We want readers to be immersed in the reading. And you do this by providing readers with the essential information, with the essential details. You don't give them pages and pages of description of how a character's toes feel on the bare floor as they pulled their socks up. It's just not needed. So please stop doing it. Your readers will thank me, I promise. And for that matter, it doesn't matter what color socks the character has. Again, if it's pivotal for a plot point later in your story, if it's the man who robbed the bank was wearing black socks and your character was wearing black socks that morning, and you want to foreshadow this, by all means you can include it then. But otherwise, if you do enough reading, you'll notice that very few authors will describe the color. Very few authors will describe the color of socks that their characters are wearing. And ideally, don't be saying he wore a hat, he wore pants. Of course your characters are wearing pants. If they're outside, of course they're wearing pants. You don't need to be going into this much excessive amount of detail. readers are going to automatically assume if your character is outside of the house, they are wearing pants, they have shoes on, they have appropriately dressed themselves for being outside. So likewise, if your character is doing something mundane, there's no need to be giving us a beat by beat. There's no reason to be describing a character taking a bite of his or her sandwich, of a character walking down the sidewalk, of a character getting on. There's no need to be giving mundane descriptions. If a character is doing something that's out of the ordinary, by all means, describe it to us. If your setting is in fact a magical realm where there's magic and fairies, by all means, you can describe more details during that in that example. But if you're writing about a story where a character goes to work and is sitting there at his desk typing away, doing what he typically does, a lot of times this can be trimmed. A lot of times you're starting too far back from where the actual beginning of the story starts. You might want to move the beginning of your story to a little closer to where your story actually begins, and this is going to help cut out a lot of that mundane day-to-day activity that your character is going through. Again, sometimes this might be necessary for you to write. It might be necessary for you to, as the author, to write and see what your character's day-to-day is like. But readers don't care. Readers don't need to be hammered over the head with a play-by-play of he got into the car, he turned the key, the engine started, and especially if a character is doing something as mundane as driving, we don't need to be told he shifted and he used the accelerator to speed up, he used the brake to stop. These are mundane activities that most people have an understanding of how a car works. Most people understand that, oh, there's a stop sign, of course he's going to stop. You don't need to say he came to a stop sign and put his foot on the brake, stopping the car on the road. These are all mundane activities that, unless it serves a purpose in your story, it should be cut. You can trim down a lot of the excess fat from your writing, and I would highly recommend that you focus what your story is about. Is your story about a character going for a Sunday leisurely drive, or is it about a character discovering aliens? There are plenty of ways that you don't need to have your character going, oh, he was driving along and the clouds were white. Of course the clouds were white. There's so many simple ways that you can get around this. You don't need to be giving a play-by-play, hammering your readers over the head with excessive description. So trust that your readers are going to be able to fill in the unnecessary details that you've trimmed out. Readers are automatically going to picture what your characters look like. There's no reason why you can't include specific details, but don't spend pages and pages describing the length of his or her hair, the way that he or she wears his or her hair. None of this is necessary to the story. This is all excessive filler. You as the author might have an image of what your characters look like, but when readers pick up books and they read, they're going to imagine what the character looks like in their own mind. If I were to say there is a red box, suddenly we all have an image of what a red box might look like. Now, I haven't given a lot of description about what this red box is. I'm certainly not going to give you exact dimensions, and I'm not going to say he was 5'4", or the box was 3 feet by 2.5 feet, and it had white toggles on it. A reader is not going to care about that description. They're going to gloss over that description. They're going to have their own image of what they think of when I say the word red box. Readers don't want to be pandered to. When I read a book, I want the author to show me the respect, to show me that they trust my ability to read this book. They trust my ability to pick up on the mundane scenes. There's no need for them to overly describe things. There's no need for them to describe the way that the water ran down his or her shoulders as they're taking a shower. This is something that we all, as human beings, we all have experiences. We all do mundane things every single day. There's no need to read about mundane activities in our fiction, in our stories. There's no need to be reading mundane activities that we do on an everyday to-day basis. So the only case that I would really think a play-by-play description, play-by-play back and forth, every last detail being described in excruciating detail, would be fight scenes, or when the tension is so high that there's a back and forth happening, and any movement that one person makes over the other person might be the difference of life and death. It might be the difference of life and death. One character might have the upper hand if they do this in one way. They attacked, they blocked, they attacked, they blocked. The other character started summoning magic, and there was a ball of fire glowing from their hands. And so I think play-by-plays are great if you have an action scene, if you have a lot of back and forth. Play-by-plays might even work well if you have two characters in a very heated argument. But again, you need to be cutting out mundane writing, cut out mundane scenes. Just like Hemingway said, murder your darlings. And thank you so much for watching. And as always, keep it spooky. And of course, here's your writing prompt for sticking around through the end. Jonathan heard a noise from the shadows. He turned and saw blank. So set your timer and start writing. Thank you so much.